Hey there, it's Dr. Jennifer Stoll from Cimarron Global Solutions. And you may recall we published the Resident Sentiment Towards Sporting Event National Benchmark Study just a couple of months ago with our friends over at Longwoods International. And we covered so much in that report, but we were really only scratching the surface on the amount of data we have that gives us insight into what our most important constituency, our local residents, think about sporting events in their communities. One of the things we didn't get to hit on in that report that I'm going to dive into right now with our first deep dive section is travel for more than 50 miles by region. So we looked at respondents to our survey who attended a sporting event in the last 12 months. And we broke that down by region. And something you may not be familiar with the tool that we use for our awesome reporting is it has a high level of ability to interact with it. So I'm looking at the overall chart right now, and you might just say, Stoll, that's a lot of colors. I don't know what to make of all that. But actually, it's really cool because if you go down here, you can deselect or select what type of data you want to look at or what elements of the data you want to look at. And I'm going to point out a couple highlights here that I'd like to draw your attention to when we're talking about drive radius, more than 50 miles, which is kind of the industry and academic standard for what is quote unquote a traveler, is over 50 miles. And I'm going to turn off community and youth and amateur. I'm also going to turn off major and mega events. And we're going to take a look right here at just looking at college and professional. So again, this is over the last 12 months. How many people have driven more than 50 miles to attend a college or professional sporting event? And you see the numbers are pretty close, but Midwest and South jump out slightly ahead of the Northeast and Western counterparts. And when you think about that, you might wonder why that is. And we've got a little bit more information over here on the toggle screen that pops up. We see an outpacing of travel for college and professional events in the Midwest and South. And really, this speaks to a lot of the historical, cultural embeddedness of sports in these regions. And what I mean by that is you look at the history of sport in the United States, and way back in the day, where many institutions of higher education, colleges, and universities were being set up, they were set up. A lot of them are research one institutions. So the big research institutions, think SEC and Big Ten and Big 12 schools, where they had these hubs for research. They incorporated athletics into it. And it should come as no surprise that as we flash forward into modern day, that is where the hotbed of college sporting activities and that exist. And that's not to insult our friends to the west or to the northeast, but we all know that college and professional sports are a big deal in the Midwest and in the South. So we see that as a driving factor, pun intended, on why the propensity or the actual travel of these folks who responded to our survey was so high in regards to driving to college and professional events. Now in the West, I'm going to turn off college and I'm going to turn on mega events. And all of a sudden in mega events, we see something different. We see the West outpacing everywhere else in the country. And when we think about that, it really shouldn't come as any surprise to us as well. They've got the history of legacy with things like the Olympic Games, not only in the past, but the forthcoming ones here in 28 for LA and in 34 for Salt Lake. We also realize that there's something different with population in those areas as well. So we tied in a heat map looking at overall population density across the US, and you'll see basically the darker the color, the closer to purple, the higher population density, and the lighter, the closer to yellow, the less population density of the area. And it's no surprise, really. I mean, the Northeast we know is a hotbed. We're talking specifically about the Midwest and the South right here. And you can see just how close those dense population areas are from a drive radius perspective. And as you move west to the Mississippi, and don't I know it because I'm coming to you today from the Cimarron Valley, you've got to drive quite a distance to hit those major or even sub-major markets that would be viable hosts for competitions. But where they do exist, again in Salt Lake here, in LA, we've also seen it up and down the western seaboard with Seattle, with Portland, down in the Phoenix area, and of course the San Diego area as well. we see hotbeds for major and mega sporting events. And that is why. So, what we want to look at here when we're thinking about this in the context of our day to day in the sport tourism industry is, what does this mean for me in the types of events we should be recruiting? And I'm going to give you a couple of things. One, Southeast, South and Midwest, you're always going to be crushing it due to population density and the culture. It's in your blood, literally and figuratively, on the college and professional, and even some of the youth and amateur. When we click over and look at youth and amateur as well, you're outpacing there. So go with that. Be with that. West, you've got something really special going in the major and mega event categories here. So embrace that. On the whole, don't try to be something that you're not. Pay attention to what population density, to what the historical culture, to what the drive radius and the propensity of people to travel to your market means for what you're hosting and what you're pursuing. And make sure that you're using the data to drive those decisions so that you can set up a portfolio of events and a long-term strategy that really feeds into your wheelhouse. So those were the key points I wanted to point out when we take a look at travel more than 50 miles to attend a sporting event by region. We've got a bunch more of this type of data deep diving into one specific aspect with high utility coming down the line. So pay attention to when these updates come out. I want to thank our friends at Longwoods for partnering with us on this study. Miles Partnership for support. Visit Frisco and the Greater Orlando Sports Commission. Until next time, I'm Dr. Jennifer Stoll. Have a great week.